Was helping my boyfriend pack for a work trip like I always do. Everything was normal until I opened his toiletry bag and saw a strip of condoms tucked in a side pocket. We don't use those. He swore he didn't know how they got there. Now I don't know what to think. This morning, I was helping my boyfriend, I'm 25F, he's 23M, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste from his toiletry bag. It's an electric toothbrush with a detachable head, and when I couldn't find the head, I opened another compartment to check. That's when I found a bunch of condoms. The toiletry bag was a Christmas gift he got right before he went on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. When I found the condoms, he seemed genuinely surprised, like he didn't know they were in there. He took them out quickly and claimed he didn't even realize that pocket was there. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but those condoms had to have been packed at some point over the last 6 months, and we've been in a relationship for 2 years. What really bothered me is that they were latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We've only ever used non-latex ones, on top of me being on birth control. Am I wrong for feeling suspicious? I honestly feel like I'm losing my mind. Update, I've read the comments, and I'm starting to spiral. I've messaged my therapist to figure out the next steps. I was actually there when he got the toiletry bag. It was at his best friend's family's house. A small part of me is hoping his best friend put the condoms in as some kind of prank or without realizing I'm allergic. Things have been a bit distant between us lately, physically and emotionally. We've only been intimate maybe once in the past 2 months. It's been weighing on me because I've been scared he's no longer attracted to me. That's what people usually say when there's a sudden drop in someone's sex drive. When he came back from his trip, he asked to move in with me, and I agreed, but now I feel trapped. What if he's been cheating on me this whole time we've been living together? He shares his location with me, but that honestly doesn't mean much. I'm on here enough to know that people can and do cheat even while sharing their location. I almost wish I hadn't found anything, because now I can't think of anything he could say that would actually make me feel secure again. Someone suggested I shouldn't have asked and should have just snooped to find out for sure, but that's not the kind of relationship I want. I don't want to dig through my partner's stuff to confirm if he's being unfaithful. Without trust, what's the point of being together? We're supposed to talk later, and I'll update afterward. Everyone seems convinced he's cheating, and I'm terrified they're right. I really hope he's not, because I don't know if I could handle that. My mental health is already in a rough place as it is. Additional information from OOP on why she was in therapy. OOP, I'm currently in therapy because I've been diagnosed with CPTSD. I'm a survivor of multiple traumatic experiences, including an attempted murder by my biological father, sexual assault, and prolonged abuse. Therapy is a part of my life because my diagnosis is something I'll carry with me indefinitely, but I'm committed to healing and not letting my trauma destroy the relationships I care about or define my future. Just to clarify, I'm not the one turning down intimacy in the relationship, I'm actually the one who's been trying to initiate it. I reached out to my therapist because I have a history of pushing people away as a form of self-protection, which stems from my past experiences with abuse. When this relationship began, my therapist cautioned me about the risk of self-sabotaging or misreading situations. I messaged her for guidance because, like anyone else, there are moments when I need help understanding if my reactions are valid. While I waited for her response, I turned to Reddit for support. I understand that strangers online don't know the full story of my life or relationship, and I don't expect them to. Still, I appreciate the insight, assumptions, and moments of empathy that have been shared. Update. Well, I definitely wasn't expecting my post to get over 1,000 comments. This update is a bit long, but I wanted to address some of the concerns people raised in the original thread. First off, thank you to everyone who reached out with kind messages to check on me. As for the few people who messaged me with inappropriate intentions, I'm not sure what they expected, but they've been blocked. Now, onto the actual update. I did talk to my boyfriend last night. I had always planned to have a serious, honest conversation with him about what I found, but there wasn't much I could do while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could feel myself spiraling, and I ended up posting on here while I waited for her response. In hindsight, that might have been a mistake. While the majority of comments were supportive, I realize Reddit doesn't have the full picture of my life and relationship like my therapist does. I probably should have waited for her input. The sheer number of comments was overwhelming, but I'll admit, posting here helped validate my feelings and gave me the confidence to be more direct in the conversation. I'm grateful to those who reassured me I wasn't overreacting. Even though my boyfriend never outright said I was, his casual reaction made me feel that way. I also appreciate the thoughtful advice and encouragement to talk things through with him. Thankfully, our second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just told him that finding latex condoms, especially when we haven't been intimate much lately, left me feeling confused and hurt. So, I asked him directly where the condoms came from. He told me his older brother gave them to him during his trip to Europe. For clarity, I'll use fake names. My boyfriend is Theo, and his older brothers are Alvin and Simon. Yes, like the chipmunks. Sorry, I couldn't think of better names. Theo had never met his mom's side of the family before that trip, not his mother, grandmother, aunt, or older brothers. The whole point of his visit was to connect with them. He spent about half the trip staying with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The second half of Theo's trip was spent in a remote part of Portugal, where he helped his mother open a small kiosk. It wasn't a vacation, there were no famous landmarks or visits to major cities. I couldn't go with him since I work and study full-time, and a short spring break visit didn't seem worthwhile. Plus, I felt it was important for him to have uninterrupted time with his mom, especially since they'd been separated since he was a baby. Theo's brothers are very different. Simon seems grounded and is in a long-term relationship. Theo spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who helped translate when his Spanish wasn't enough, as she was the only fluent English speaker there. His oldest brother, Alvin, who's 30 and the one who gave him the condoms, has spent much of his life in and out of prison. Apparently, Spain has unique squatting laws, and when Alvin gets out of prison, he often claims abandoned buildings to live in and fix up. It's a loophole where, if evicted, the government would then have to provide him with housing. While Theo was away, he stayed in contact and called or texted me every day. He told me how Alvin would catcall women in public and how he tried to get both him and Simon to join him at an orgy, even though they both have girlfriends. Theo made it very clear to everyone that he was in a committed relationship. He carries a photo of me in his wallet, and his aunt told me he spoke about me a lot. Still, Alvin repeatedly pressured him to hook up with other women for fun. I remember him venting about how annoying it was at the time, and Simon was just as uncomfortable with it. At one point, Alvin actually handed Theo a bunch of condoms, encouraging him to cheat. As a side note, I checked the pack after a commenter suggested it. There are 8 condoms, and they all still appear to be unused. I'm not sure what the standard pack size is in Spain. Theo told me he stashed them in his bag because his aunt frequently cleaned his room, and he didn't want to risk any unnecessary drama if someone else found them. He later forgot they were there. He only ever uses that toiletry bag when going to the gym. In fact, the night we went out with friends after his shift, we stopped by the gym so he could shower and get ready. Otherwise, all his things, like his toothbrush, are in our shared bathroom. He's not living out of a bag, he's fully moved in. I understand why some people might have seen the toiletry bag as a red flag, but I just wanted to explain the context and clear up that concern. I did ask Theo why he even accepted the condoms. He told me he never planned to use them, he only took them because Alvin wasn't hearing a word he said about being in a committed relationship. Accepting them was the only way to get Alvin off his back. After that, Alvin pretty much left him alone. Theo didn't even bother saying goodbye to him when the trip ended. He kept his distance from Alvin the entire time, even though Alvin kept inviting both him and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin, but when I asked about it while Theo was still there, Simon seemed perfectly fine avoiding him too. It sounds like Alvin just isn't a good person, and the rest of the family does their best to keep away from him whenever they can. So, that's really the whole story. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms were from his older brother, not something he went out and got himself. I believe him. He answered my questions honestly and clearly, and when he got home and saw how upset I was, his main concern was how I was feeling. He didn't get defensive or angry, he just listened. He told me he loves me and has no interest in cheating. Theo works 2 jobs, shares his location with me, and when he's not working or going to the gym, he's usually at home. When he does have free time, he spends it with me or with friends, many of whom are mutual. Even the friends he has outside our shared circle from work often invite me to hang out, or he'll ask me to join when they play Overwatch after work. I love him. I trust him. I'm choosing to move forward. That doesn't mean I'll ignore red flags in the future if they come up, though. Like many of you said, I'm still young and I have my whole life ahead of me. If things ever go south, I know I'll be okay on my own. I love having him in my life, but I'm not relying on him for my happiness. I have a therapy session tomorrow and I've had a lot of time to reflect. Looking back, I think what triggered my spiral the most was the fear that if he had cheated, I'd be living with someone I didn't really know. I've built a deep sense of trust in him. I see him as someone who would never hurt me, cheat on me, or raise his voice at me. If he had been capable of cheating, what else might he be capable of? That thought scared me more than anything. And honestly, all the Reddit comments convinced that he was a horrible person and that I was being naive just made things worse. I started to doubt how he'd react if it was true. I felt really scared and unsure. But when he came home, it all felt so different, almost silly in comparison. He's not like my ex. He's never done anything to make me afraid of him. I let the internet get into my head more than I should have, and I definitely need a break from Reddit. I hope I've answered all the major questions and concerns that were raised. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. For those who had questions about our sex life and relationship in general. When he first returned from his trip and moved in, everything felt normal, our sex drives were both high and we were very connected physically. But over the past couple of months, that slowed down significantly. We had already talked about it before I found the condoms. We both admitted it was a concern, especially since we're at an age where our sex lives should be thriving. He told me he doesn't know what's going on, and he's embarrassed by the change. He says he finds me incredibly attractive and can't understand why his sex drive has dipped, especially since, his words, not mine, he has such a gorgeous girlfriend. He has a doctor's appointment next week to check his hormone levels and is also exploring therapy to figure out if it might be a mental health issue instead of a physical one. Even though it's hard not to feel a little insecure when I try to initiate and he's just not in the mood, he still puts in effort to be affectionate in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't where either of us wants it to be, but I don't think it's hopeless. We're communicating and actively working on it together. We make time for weekly date nights, and we're both supportive of each other's friendships and personal time. We live together, but neither of us is clingy or overly dependent. We check in regularly to make sure we're both comfortable with how things are going, especially since this is still a relatively new living arrangement. We're figuring out how to divide chores and responsibilities while juggling demanding schedules. He works 2 jobs, and I'm a full-time student working full-time hours. I'm currently taking 14 credits this summer, so yeah, I barely exist outside of school and work right now, lol. For those who brought up my mental health or therapy, I do everything I can to make sure I am my own support system. I've been in the position before where someone's untreated mental illness turned me into their emotional punching bag, and I would never put someone I love through that. I'm in therapy because I've lived through a lot of trauma, and I want to be proactive about managing my CPTSD so that it doesn't negatively impact my life or my relationships. I was raised by a mom who struggles with severe anxiety, most likely undiagnosed PTSD, because of the trauma we both experienced from my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 multiple times as a kid because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and we've come a long way in our relationship, but one thing I know for sure is that if I ever have children of my own, I want to be emotionally stable and present for them. Therapy is part of making sure I can be that kind of parent and partner. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based in quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a tough period in terms of intimacy, and when I was off my medication, I started to feel like he, and honestly, everyone in my life, saw me as a burden. Even though he constantly reassured me that he was there for me and encouraged me to ask for what I needed, my mental state made it hard to believe that. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that the change in our sex life isn't about me, but when I was feeling low, my past trauma really distorted how I saw myself. Having been sexually assaulted multiple times, I've internalized this false idea that my worth is tied to my sexuality. So when my boyfriend, someone I love and who loves me, wasn't initiating or responding to intimacy in the same way, it made me feel like something was wrong with me. I found myself thinking, if someone who claims to love me doesn't want me when I'm open and available, but others were willing to force themselves on me when I didn't consent, what does that say about me? I know that logic isn't sound, and I've worked through it a lot in therapy, but it's a thought pattern I still wrestle with from time to time. I shared all of this here during a particularly low moment because I needed to vent without putting that weight on the people closest to me. Depression is strange, especially after years in therapy. Even though the dark, intrusive thoughts feel all-consuming in the moment, there's a deeper part of me that knows they're not permanent, and that they don't reflect reality. I know some of what I said back then was alarming, but I want to be clear, I wasn't in any real danger. I have goals, dreams, and a future I'm determined to reach, even when things feel overwhelming. I do have people in my life who love and care about me. I just struggle with asking for help and letting people in when I need support. I was raised to be extremely independent, especially by my mom, who has a lot on her plate right now with my dad's health issues. I try not to add to her stress, even if that means keeping things to myself. While I've hit some roadblocks with school and life in general, I know I'm resilient and have every reason to be proud of how far I've come. I'm back on my medication now and have increased my therapy sessions from monthly to every other week. I was doing well before I stopped taking my meds, and I'm committed to getting back to that place again. Sorry if this feels like a lot. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation about my mental health, but I saw the concern from some of you and just wanted to say, I'm okay. And I'll continue to be okay, whether or not my relationship works out. My mental illness doesn't stop me from being a loving, supportive friend and partner. Being in therapy doesn't make me weak, it means I care enough about myself and the people around me to keep growing and healing. Update. Honestly, I'm kind of regretting posting that update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers are getting to me, but it's frustrating that so many people didn't read the whole thing and just assumed I was trying to convince myself of something. I waited a full 24 hours after having that conversation with him before even considering sharing anything. I already knew a lot of people would jump to the conclusion that he cheated, no matter what I said. I added a lot of detail because people had comments and questions about all different parts of my original post. I figured if I had just said, his brother gave him the condoms, people would have claimed it was vague or suspicious. Sure, it might seem like a complicated story to someone unfamiliar with the whole trip, but the only new information to me was that his brother had given them to him. His trip was a complete mess. We were in contact every single day, he called me constantly, updated me on what was going on, and fell asleep on the phone with me most nights. He wasn't partying or going out. He spent a big chunk of the trip with his estranged mom and her awful, racist, and verbally abusive boyfriend. This guy accused him of stealing and even made disgusting comments about how he couldn't believe my boyfriend would be with a black woman like me. I had to talk him down multiple times to keep him from putting himself in danger. He had no way of getting home if that man kicked him out. At one point, they literally abandoned him in a random town in Portugal for more than a day. With all that going on, I can understand how he forgot about the condoms in his bag. If we hadn't been in constant contact while he was away, I might have been more suspicious. If he'd gotten defensive or cagey when I asked him about it, I'd definitely question it more. But he didn't. He didn't lie. He genuinely didn't remember they were there. The bag has a ton of compartments, and he only uses one. From the outside, the pocket seemed empty, and it just slipped his mind. People seem so quick to label me as naive or spineless, and it's honestly insulting. If you actually read what I've shared about my mental health, you'd know I'm extremely aware of red flags and usually very guarded to protect myself. Vulnerability doesn't come easy to me. I don't depend on others lightly. I mentioned that he doesn't yell or curse because it's true, he's never raised his voice at me, not even once. The most emotional I've ever seen him was when he was trying to defend me overseas. He's calm, steady, and incredibly composed, and I love that about him. I love him. And I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy, though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met in school. He used to sit behind me in class, so he couldn't even really see me. When I later asked what first drew him to me, he said it was how articulate I was. My looks were just a bonus. I don't want this to come off as arrogant, but it's rare for me to go out in public without someone trying to catcall, flirt, or ask me out. As a teenager, I was nearly kidnapped twice. Because of that, I genuinely dislike being approached or hit on. I turned down everyone at school who came on to me, except him. He was different. When he asked me out, he was nervous, respectful, and genuine. That energy made me say yes. Our first date was unforgettable. We went to an art museum, then hit an amusement park, and ended the night with a long picnic under the stars. We talked for hours about our lives and dreams. It was honestly the best date I'd ever been on, which scared me a bit because I didn't think I was ready for something serious. But with him, everything just felt safe and right. We both come from emotionally chaotic households and have made it a point to break those cycles. Our connection was instant, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I felt ready to officially commit. During that time, he made it clear I was the only one he wanted. He detailed my car, brought me flowers, bought holiday accessories for my cat, picked up vinyls of songs he knew I loved, all without expecting anything in return. To this day, he still does things like that. He's even trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to go to a salon for my hair anymore. After he moved in, he reorganized my entire closet just because I'd once mentioned how overwhelming it was. He remembered that I'd been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror and literally built one for me from scratch. Took me to Home Depot to pick the color and everything. He treats me like royalty. The only bump we've hit in our relationship recently has been a decrease in intimacy, but I believe we'll work through it. Finding the condom scared me at first, but that issue has been talked through and resolved. I'm no longer hung up on it. If others can't see how much he brings into my life, that's on them. I'm happy, and that's what matters. I won't be responding to any more comments on this. Thank you to those who supported me and saw how hard I've worked on my emotional growth. I'm going to step back from Reddit for a while and focus on enjoying the life I've built.